This episode of the Daring Woman podcast is brought to you by the From Survivor to Thriver Summit, getting women the tools that they need to move past victimhood and into thriverhood. Join us April 2nd through 4th online, beathriversummit.com. I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. You know, something that I've noticed over the years and working with women and just with myself and my past history is that when you're told something about yourself often enough, you know, eventually you tend to believe it, as is the case with abuse. You know, I grew up with a grandmother who told me I was stupid all the time, and a mom who said, "Oh, you can't ever do that. That's not the path you should be going down, and you know it's not right for you." And you tend to kind of start believing that. And my guest today, Julee Hunt, is definitely no stranger to that emotion, having grown up with her own history of abuse and being told that she's not worthy. So Julee, welcome to the Daring Woman podcast.
Thank you, Tracy. It's an honor to be here.
I am so excited to have you. I've known Julee for quite a while, and I can't believe that this is the first time I've actually had her on the podcast. Bad me. So I'm so excited to be talking with you today.
Thank you.
And, you know, we're going to talk a lot about self-worth and how we let our abusers kind of strip that away from us. So let's start off with you telling us a little bit about your back history.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did grow up in an abusive home, and I learned very quickly how to be the perfect little girl so that I would get abused less. And led me to believe that I wasn't, you know, that who I was really as a person was not enough, that I had to live in perfection for people to like me, love me, for me to succeed. I had to be a shapeshifter so that I would fit into everybody else's mold. And I remember thinking, I'm going to prove them all wrong, that I really am something, that I really am someone, and I can have great success. And I started a corporate career with the intention of going to the top of a corporation, despite the fact that, you know, I was told you shouldn't be rising above your raisin, right? And you know, we have a place in society, and but I was going to prove them all wrong. And but because I'd become this shapeshifter and trying to be the person everybody wanted me to be, I totally got lost in the process. And every promotion that I had, I felt like I wasn't worthy of, and that I had to work harder and harder than everybody else so that they wouldn't find out that they'd made a mistake in promoting me. You might say I was suffering from imposter syndrome.
Right.
And as I got to the higher rungs on the ladder, what happened for me is that I just felt this deep unhappiness, and I felt unfulfilled, and I felt really empty, and I felt guilty about feeling that way. And but I really couldn't see a way out, because, you know, as you start making more money, you get those golden handcuffs on your wrists, and you don't, you know, it can impact your family in a negative way if you leave to try and find yourself, or be, you know, go find the work that really feeds your soul. And so I felt stuck. And one day, during the capsizing of a company I was working for, I was invited to leave. And so I had my way out.
I like how you say that I was invited to leave.
Right. Right.
That's
And
so nice.
I remember waking up the very next day and thinking, oh my gosh, I left my identity, my worthiness, and my happiness all back at the desk that I left the day before.
Sure.
And I was now given the opportunity, of course, I didn't see it as an opportunity at the time, but given the opportunity to learn how to do life, to learn how to see my own value, my own worthiness without a job. And I started a journey, and early in my journey, I realized that I did not love myself, that I had never, that had been suppressed and pushed aside and pushed down my entire life. And the way I found that out is that was given an exercise by Louise Hay to look in a mirror, look straight into my eyes and say, I love you. And I couldn't do it.
And that is the hardest exercise ever.
Yes, it is, especially when you've been told that you're not worthy your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels so fake.
Inauthentic, you bet, the whole
Yeah.
bit. And so I started with, I'm willing to learn to love you. And I just kept saying it. I'm willing to learn to love you until I could say that and look myself in the eyes, which then said, I'm open to loving you, which then led to, I love you. And now I don't pass a mirror where I don't say it, even a reflection in a window.
Sure.
It's
I like that little kind of stair step way of doing it, as opposed to just saying I love you over and over again until one day you finally start to believe it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because I think what's the hardest part about affirmations, I think affirmations are good, and I think they are a really good tool. But when you are so deeply confused that you don't really believe it, it's hard to look in the mirror and say it over and over until you've retrained your brain. It's easier to start with, well, okay, I'm open to believing this might be true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because when you start off with a list of, I am healthy, I am thin, I am wealthy, I am sexy, I am this, and you're like, I am full of shit,
I know that.
It doesn't work. That one I believe. It doesn't work. So yeah, stating I'm open to the possibilities, I'm open to the path, I'm open to becoming. I think that's a lot more powerful and a lot more believable.
Right. Right. And so that's pretty much where I work with affirmations is I don't always start with the I'm rich. If I'm
Sure.
not rich, I start with I'm willing to be rich. I'm willing to believe that I deserve to be rich, or
Right.
I'm willing to believe that I'm deserving of being healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I am going to have to implement that, because I know regular affirmations, I'm just like, they work, they're great. I love quotes and all that kind of thing, but then, you can only say them so much when your subconscious is deep down saying, "Nuh-uh," you know. So yeah,
Mhm.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Great.
Yeah, I love learning new stuff. So, I know this didn't happen overnight. And you also had a life-altering illness that kind of jumped you into, okay, I need to be doing something different, right?
Correct.
Can you tell us?
Yes, I can. After I got laid off, I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. And for people who are not familiar with adrenal fatigue, not only are you extremely tired, but your immune system is very compromised. And if you keep going and ignore that, it could lead to more serious illness, such as cancer or an autoimmune disorder, or any serious illness. And
Right.
had I stayed in my corporate job, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten that, because I did do that. I pushed back. I pushed through everything and totally ignored my health and my self-care. And that would have been what stopped me in my tracks, would have been that disease, if I had not first been invited to leave and given the chance to let my body heal and rest the adrenals.
Sure. I unfortunately know all too well, having gone through that myself just late last year. I hit this massive wall of fatigue right around October, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I slept through November, December, and half of January. And it was all I could do to just kind of keep Daring Woman up and running, basic. So yeah, that's a tough one to get through. But it is eye-opening. It's like, oh, okay, it's time to make some changes.
Right. And I think what's so hard for us when we're in this kind of situation is that we don't ask, we're not comfortable for help. And that's when we really need to ask for help.
Sure. As women, we are, it's just ingrained into us that we have to have all be all, do all. It's a sign of weakness to ask for help, when it's truly a sign of strength to ask for help.
Right.
And yeah, so we end up just, taking on more, whether it's work, it's emotions, it's just everything that we have going on, until one day we hit that wall.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, for those that are listening, that are, kind of in that space of, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel deserving of having whatever, my dreams come true. I don't feel deserving of having a good, happy relationship, or, whatever it is. How do they start, kind of changing that mindset and getting back to that path of I am worthy. I do deserve this.
Right. Good question. Well, the love exercise, of course, the mirror love exercise is a good one. And I consider that part of my worthiness workout every day. I do have a worthiness workout that I do every day to maintain my worthiness.
Ooh, I want to hear about that.
Yeah. But I think the most important part of this, other than, learning to love yourself, is to listen to your own self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
We are really good, especially if we've come from abusive homes, we're really good at tearing ourselves down and berating ourselves. And sometimes it may seem like it's a really benign thing. I hear it all the time, and I'm going to share this with you. Now everybody's going to start hearing it. But you'll say something to somebody, like they'll share, well, why did you do that? Maybe you, something really benign, like, I didn't put my keys where they were supposed to go. I can't find my keys. What an idiot I am. Well, really, I'm not an idiot, but I keep telling myself that. And that, even though that's something really benign, your keys, but you tell yourself, I'm an idiot. And when you do that, that tears away at your own self-love. Self-talk is, I know that when I first started listening to mine, I was totally surprised at how much I tore myself down. And when you're torn down as a child, you learn it so well, you just take it into your adult life, and you start doing it for your parents, so I started listening to my self-talk. I call that inner voice that's trying to tell me that I don't deserve something, or I'm not worthy, or that I'm stupid or dumb or anything like that. That I call that inner voice an inner bully. She's an inner bully. In my case, it's kind of a committee. It's an itty bitty shitty committee, but it is a voice that is constantly badgering me and trying to put me in a place that I don't want to be. It's a comfortable comfort zone. It's uncomfortable because I know it's probably going to end in failure. It's my comfort zone because I know how it's going to end, even though I don't like how it's going to end. So I started listening to my self-talk, and every time I would hear a negative statement, I would write it down. And I would go home at night and I would take that negative statement and I would turn it around and I would write a positive statement. Now, the positive statement came from what I call my inner wise woman, because she's the one that cheers me on. She's the one that lifts me up when I'm down. She's the one that lets me know it's okay to be imperfect. She's the one that will, feed my mind with possibilities when roadblocks appear. But my inner bully, in my mind, is a liar and verbally abusive. And I always have to ask myself that question: would I let my best friend talk to me the same way I myself?
Oh,
And
yeah.
if the answer is yes, you need a new best friend, but the answer is no, then it's time to be your own best friend, because it's not okay for you to do that to yourself. So listening to the self-talk, realizing that you're having these messages that you just kind of have been letting subconsciously run your life for a while. It's not an exercise to berate yourself more. It's to raise your consciousness so that you can make different choices. That's not right. I'm an idiot. In fact, I'm a genius because I left those keys in my pocket so that when I put my coat on, I'd be ready to go and not looking for my keys.
Right.
Right. So that's the thing, is I think starting with self-love and listening to your self-talk.
Those are some great first steps. Absolutely. And I know that that negative self-talk is brutal. I mean, I know that I say things to myself that I wouldn't say to my worst enemy.
Right.
And you have to stop and wonder, okay, well, if you wouldn't say that to somebody that you absolutely cannot stand, why is it okay to say it to yourself?
Right.
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 Yeah, so that's a big one right there. And I like the looking in the mirror. I'm gonna have to do that one again.
Right.
So
The other thing that I think people are not aware of is how much that we are bombarded with these negative messages just from the outside world, especially with how connected our society is.
mm-hmm.
If you listen to any type of advertising, which a lot of us just kind of has become background noise to most of us, like on the radio or, if you watch TV or anything like that, it still gets ingrained into you. And advertising tells us that if we're not gray-free, fat-free, and wrinkle-free, we're not enough. And if we hop onto social media, we start comparing ourselves to other people's lives, and we think we just don't measure up. And so it's also being aware of what you take in.
Yeah. And surrounding yourself with positive messages as opposed to negative. I know I've had to clean up a lot of my social media feed, and I've got some more work to do because people are just so negative. And I don't want to feed into that because it's easy to get caught up in that. And then all of a sudden you're feeding into it, and you're becoming even more negative, and it's kind of a vicious circle there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
you totally have to watch for that. Well, Julie, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for giving us these tips so that we can get started on our journey to loving ourselves and realizing that we are worthy of everything. We're worthy of love and happiness and health and abundance and richness and success and whatever. The sky's the limit, but we are worthy.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
I always share this with my audiences when I speak. I say, pretend that I'm holding a crisp $100 bill.
mm-hmm.
How much is it worth? It's worth $100.
Yeah.
Well, what if I crumple it up and I throw it on the floor and I stomp on it a few times? I pick it up now, it's creased and it's got dirt on it. How much is it worth? It's worth $100.
Yep.
We all have those life experiences that make us feel less than. But in reality, even though we have creases and dirt and past life experiences like that, we're still worthy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Julie, tell us how we can find you, please.
I do have a website out there. It's JuleeHuntInternational.com, and Julie spelled with two E's, Julee. And in the top right corner of my website, there is a what I call the Worthiness Warrior Quiz, where you can find out where you actually fall on the scale. Because some of us really aren't dealing with it too much. Maybe we're a real warrior, and some of us might be, not even on the scale to be a warrior. It just all depends. But that, if people want to know that, they can take that quiz. But you can find me, and you can send me a message from there. There's a contact us on there. You can also apply for an AHA session with me if you want.
Cool. And don't forget to get Julie's book, You Are Worthy. It is a fantastic read. We've got the link down in the show notes, so make sure you grab a copy of that. Julie, thank you so much for joining us. This has been absolutely awesome to have you on and to be talking with you. And we're going to have to definitely have you back on, and we'll do it again.
Yes, I'd love that. Thank you so much, Tracy. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. And ladies listening, thank you as always for joining us on the Daring Woman podcast. And we will definitely catch you on the next episode.